Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Knicks Daily here. Today we're going to be talking about Jericho Sims and how he could be the X factor for the Knicks next season. So as we know, Isaiah Hartenstein left in free agency to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that created a massive gap at center. Not only do the Knicks need a backup behind Mitchell Robinson, but they also need somebody who can start probably anywhere from 15 to 30 games because Mitch has not been able to stay healthy. So they need a legit option on this team, and if they don't, it could cost them a championship. So who's that going to be? That's what we're going to talk about, because right now it's Jericho Sims, and if the season were to start, he'd be in the rotation. So let's get it, man. So overall, the Knicks picked up Sims's $2 million option for 2024-25. It's a smart move. He's 25 years old, which is still very young. Not to mention he's going to his 4th season. Miles McBride had a leap last year. Can Sims have the same? Because that would save the Knicks a lot of money, and it would save them the effort as well from having to make a trade. Because right now, if you guys didn't know this was reported, that teams are essentially using leverage against the Knicks, saying that we know you guys need a center. You're calling about Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, Nick Richards, Clint Capella, okay, and they're just overcharging the Knicks because of that. So it's probably in our best interest to just simply use Jericho Sims as our second string center, and then to bring back Precious Achiuwa. We have his bird rights. It makes all the sense in the world, and Sims does come with upside. I mean, yeah, he averaged 2 points, 3 boards last season, but over a 100 possession sample size, that's 8 points and 13 rebounds. Among bigs with more than 45 games played, but fewer than 15 started in 2024, Sims's offensive production was the 3rd best, but unfortunately his defense production was the 11th worst. And that's the thing with Sims, is you can tell he's just not a good defender. You guys, if you have watched him play, you wouldn't even tell you that. Just from the eye test, man, is the Knicks defense not very good when he's out there. But offensively, because he's so athletic and he can catch lobs and he can get the rebound, I mean, like, name a big that's going to go up and get a rebound consistently over Jericho Sims. He's just way too bouncy. I mean, I don't know exactly what his vertical is. We can go find that right now. It's got to be like 42 inches, maybe higher. Jericho Sims' vertical leap, I mean, it's just absurd. 44 and a half. Yeah, he has a 44 and a half inch vertical. How tall is him? About 6'10". Yeah, he's 6'10", 250. I mean, the bounce is just insane, guys, especially because guys will drive to the basket and they'll just dump it off to Sims for a wide open dunk because help's coming. I like Sims a lot. It's just he hasn't developed as much as I'd like. He still seems raw to me. He seems like a guy that comes into the draft that, like, he kind of reminds me of, like, I don't want to say Anthony Richardson because I don't want to compare sports, but he's just a guy that is an insane athlete. And can he continue to develop, because he could become one of the best? But to this point, he's 25, going into his 4th season. If we haven't seen it yet, will we? But we've seen guys in the NBA break out later than 25. Like, 25 is still young, right? I mean, like, for example, Julius Randle's about to be 30 this season, so is Campaign. Like, there's some players in the Knicks that are up there in their later 20s, but they haven't shown any signs of slowing down. So I do think there's a lot of potential for Sims. We just need to go out there and pair some guys around him to be able to benefit him. So sort of like a matchup dependent type of rotation. So Precious Achiuwa is the first guy that comes to my mind. We could go out there and re-sign him. He averaged 8 points, 7 rebounds, and a block for the Knicks last season. He shot 52%. Once Isaiah Hartenstein missed some time in late January, Achiuwa played some incredibly high-level basketball. It was the best of his career. There was no Randle, no Mitch as well. I mean, January 20th, that was against the Raptors. Achiuwa, he had been averaging less than 12 minutes over his first 10 showings, but went off for 18 points on 9 of 10 from the field, 11 rebounds, which was a double-double, and a 126-100 rout of Toronto. Achiuwa solidified himself as an invaluable component from there on, averaging over 27 minutes in his final 38 games. He later came up big in the postseason, particularly through late lockdown duties on Joel Embiid. Things have been relatively quiet lately on the Achiuwa front, as again, he's a restricted free agent. But the Knicks do have his bird rights, which means that they could give him an offer that he just simply can't refuse. And to this point, I'd feel very content with bringing back Achiuwa. I mean, he's 24. He gives us depth, if anything. Him and Sims are just guys, again, in their mid-20s that we can utilize. If there's an injury, I trust Sims to come in, and I trust Achiuwa. I'm not saying that if Mitchell Robinson misses the season again, which is basically what happened, that, okay, Achiuwa and Sims were good. Not exactly the case. At that point, we seriously have to consider a Clint Capella or a Brook Lopez type of big man. But with Mitchell Robinson being healthy right now, I think we're pretty good at the center position, because we're not going to be completely set. Like right now, I'll give you guys an example of what I'm saying. So at the guard position, Jalen Brunson, Cameron Payne, Tyler Kolek, talking about point. Absolutely incredible. It doesn't get better than that for an NBA team. Shooting guard, we've got Mikal Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo, Miles McBride. Not to mention that, you know, Devo can play the 1 and the 2. McBride can play the 1 and the 2. These guys are basically like interchangeable. I mean, they can play multiple positions. They're versatile. And then at the 3, we've got OG, Hart. You know, Bridges can play there as well. Keita Bates Diop. Haven't said his name in a while, as I butchered it right there. He's a guy that can play a couple of positions. Macomb Daddy is not going to be a part of our rotation. He's going to be in Westchester. I'd say him. But at the 4, Randall, Hart, OG, even Bridges can probably play the 2 through the 4. So again, guys that can play multiple positions. And then out the 5, that's when it's a little bit concerning right now. Mitchell Robinson and Jericho Sims. It wouldn't be concerning in the slightest if Mitch played games. I mean, he's played just 70 or more games once in his 5-year career. A guy like Clint Capella, for example, the past 2 seasons have played 70 or more. 2 of the last 3. Brook Lopez, again, 70 or more in the last 2 seasons. Mitch he hasn't been available. So we'll kind of wait and see on that. But overall, I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about. I mean, Jericho Sims is definitely not the worst backup center in the world, and he's only going to continue to get better, especially competing in practice with this team. And Coach Tibb, he turned Isaiah Hartenstein into a guy who was making $8 million a year annually when he came to the Knicks, and he left making 29. So Jericho Sims, he's a traditional Tibbs type of big, setting screens, rebounding the ball, protecting the rim. He just has to get better. He has to have a Miles McBride type of season where Tibbs just absolutely is forced to play him and put him into the rotation. And I would tell you guys that I don't see a world where that happens, but I didn't see Miles McBride doing what he did this past season. He shot over 40% from 3. When he was in the starting lineup, was averaging about 17 a night. It was incredibly impressive for McBride. I think Sims can do the same thing. And I didn't even mention what happened in the beginning of this video. Well, I guess I'll mention it right now. I don't know when I'm putting that in, but overall, Sims was shooting turnaround fadeaways. And if he continues to work on his bag and his skill set, he legitimately has a lot to offer the Knicks, because again, a guy with a 44.5-inch vertical, there's going to be a use for that. A guy who in college was, I'm not going to say dominant, but a guy who, again, just jumped out of the building. There aren't many players that can jump like Jericho Sims, and when you go into the playoffs using a guy like Sims who's going to have fresh legs because he's going to be the backup, I mean, you could use him right there and he's going to be a problem. Like, Jericho Sims could be a problem. Just like we envisioned Miles McBride could be a problem, and ended up happening. So why not for Sims, right?